This is Minga Vargas conducting the legacy interview for Health Sciences 305 for Dr. Margaret Walker. My interviewee is my mother, Rose Vargas, and this is my mom. Mom, will you tell Dr. Walker your date of birth?
I was born on March 17th, 1943.
And how old are you then?
That would make me 75
Okay.
this year.
And Mom, this is for you. This is a genogram, or basically a family tree that puts you in your order and all the rest of that. Does it look accurate?
Yes, it is. Looks good.
Okay, so then let's begin. Will you tell me about your childhood? You grew up with many siblings.
Yes, there were 10 of us in the family, and I was 6 of 10. And um, when the youngest one was born, the oldest was already gone from the home. My mother had her 10 children within 16 years. Um, we lived on a small farm and grew up milking cows, and we had pigs and we had chicken, and we did lots of farm work. We were 8 miles from town, so we did not get to town very often in those days. Um, but it was a good childhood.
Were there any significant life events during your childhood? Things that made an impact on you that you remember?
Nothing, no one thing in particular, except that life was quite very strict. My father was quite unbending and um, made the household sometimes tense because of his strictness. Although um, he he cared, but he didn't know how to be soft.
That can make it very difficult.
Yes, at
Um,
times,
yeah. Um,
and it also forms your personality.
do you find that as you got older, did you find that you reflected that, or your mother was?
She was more soft. She was more gentle. Um, she was able to show some love and caring, whereas he was not. And he did not want her to show too much. So she also was restricted in that way. And I think probably all of my siblings and I resolved not to be that way with our own children. So I think the next generation, then you find we were all more able to hug and say, I love you, and um, be quite open with affection.
That's good. So, um, growth in that way. Would you say that you, from your adversity, I guess if you would call it that, the group of you
We learned,
learned?
we grew from that, and I think made for a better next generation.
That's good.
Yes.
Um, are there any stories that you would like to share from childhood, favorite memories, or anything like that?
Um, from my time on the farm, uh, good things were, I enjoyed the farm work. I enjoyed being outside with lots of brothers and sisters around. Some of us were inside doing the cooking and cleaning, and some of us were outside. And I, of course, had both things to do. No, I don't have any particular stories to tell.
Well, I'm going to tattle a little bit on you and have you explain a little bit that you yourself and a couple of your siblings have referred to you as the instigator when you were young.
Ooh. Yes. Um, Agatha was my sister closest to me in age, and she was a year and some months older than I. And so she and I were partners in crime, so to speak. And um, I was the mouthy one. I was the one who had something to say before anybody else did. And um, if we, if she wanted to go someplace or do something, then she, you know, it was my job to ask if we could do this. Um, yes, it often got me in trouble, and um, I guess that's it.
Let's see. Let's go moving on. Have there been significant life events that have shaped your adulthood? Or what are the significant life events that shaped your adulthood?
Oh, I knew this question was coming. There's a couple things that. One thing was when I left home, and after I graduated from high school, and I was so restricted at home to have the freedom of uh, college life because I went to college. And um, I'm amazed yet that I am such a good person when all that freedom was unknown to me and then all of a sudden dumped on me. And that would have been a life event in itself that probably shaped the rest of my life. Of course, getting married is a life event. Getting divorced was a life event. Um, I After college, I moved to Guatemala. That in itself, in those days, was quite a life event. It was a move from college back to the farm for the summer, waiting anxiously for the mail. There was no phone calls, no emails saying I was accepted, um, being accepted, going to Cuernavaca, Mexico via bus and train through Mexico. Um, those things are, I think of them now, and I think that was really very courageous of me to feel I could take that on and do it. But I did, and um, I don't know that I think of anything else right
How did submersing yourself in a culture that was completely unfamiliar to you, obviously because Latin America is nothing like the Midwest, how did that change your views?
now. I had taken Spanish in college and loved it, and I loved anything and everything I could about the Spanish culture, and I was so anxious to go. Um, yeah, it was a world apart, um, but to me it felt like easy to fall into, and the language was fairly easy for me. Um, I went to language school. Was it 6 months? Maybe it was, or 3 months, one or the other. And um, while there, I got to know one of our teachers, and thought that I had fallen in love with him and that I was going to get married to him. But then language school was over, and it was too easy for me to leave. So that was kind of my answer to being in love with him. But I really liked the culture. And from there, I moved to Coban, or San Pedro Carcha in Guatemala. And that was a very, not small in numbers, but very rural um, area where you could drive in, but most people walked or you took a mule or something like that.
Is Koban, is that the town that is on the edge of the rainforest? Or was that Teleman? Or neither of them?
No, neither one of them were on the edge of the rainforest.
Okay.
They Koban is up high in altitude, and that made it kind of a cloud city because there was up high and the clouds were around there. It was a good place for raising coffee because that's what you need for coffee. Okay.
Let's see. Moving on. How would you describe yourself?
Um, Personality. I think usually outgoing. I I think I'm good at seeing the good parts over the bad parts, as in the cup half full rather than half empty sort of thing. Um, I don't know. That's
Um, and what would you say your identity is? Like, who are you?
um, at this point I see myself as a grandmother rather than a mother to my children. I'm always a mother to my children, but I don't feel like I'm in charge of bringing them up anymore. I don't feel that a grandmother has to bring up children. I feel like a grandmother is to enjoy your little ones and not so little ones, and I certainly do. So,
And how many grandchildren do you have?
7.
Yes.
Yes.
And describe your present life. What is it?
I'm retired. I live in an apartment because I choose not to own a house because I don't wish for the responsibilities. I think I have found with age I want less responsibilities and less decisions to make. And as for being retired, my life pretty much centers around my grandchildren and my children. Um, I live in town with one family, and I see those children every day, pick them up from school, see them after school. I'm 4 hours from my other family, and I try and get down and see them every month and spend some days with them. It's the thing that makes me tick, I guess.
Oh. How have you dealt with your aging process?
I have embraced it. I realize I'm getting older. I accept those changes. They often help me to get out of work because I can say I'm too old for that. No, I have very fortunately been healthy. Haven't had any major health issues up to this point. I am grateful for that. Um, I do not want to go back and relive years that I've already spent.
Is there anything aging wise that you're concerned about or that you're worried you might encounter?
Oh, I think my probably the biggest concern is health. I of course have 10 or 9 siblings. There's 10 of us, and so many of my brothers and sisters have suffered health problems, from heart disease to um, hip replacement, knee problems, skin problems,
Cancer.
viruses.
Cancer.
Yes, cancer, and I have not at this point, and um, I'm hoping that it does not come for me, but um, we do not know what the future holds.
And let's see. Share what you feel is the most important life lessons you've learned, and what legacy you would like to leave for your children and grandchildren.
Lessons. Okay, life lessons. I would think one of the most important things I learned is that I am not in charge. That I can only accept things as they come and deal with them. And my way of handling things that are stressful and feel like they're out of my control is probably through prayer. Prayer is a big part of my life, and I um, try to learn to pray that thy will be done, not mine, and to be able to accept the things that are dealt to me and um, handle them in the best way possible.
So then the second part of that, what legacy would you like to leave for?
Oh, uh, I would like people to remember me, my family to remember me as being a loving person, um, being there for you when you need it, being um, able to include you in my prayers always. I think maybe that's it.
All right. Well, that's it for our interview. Thank you, Mom.
Yes.
Love you.
Love you, Nick.